As 2024 comes to a close and the new year is nearly upon us, we are here with another edition of the In Goal Radio podcast. This is episode 285, as always presented by the Hockey Shop Source for Sports. We're flying a bit out of control as our captain Darren Millard is on assignment in Las Vegas this week. We've got PWHL rookie and recent NCAA champion MVP Raygan Kirk with us, presented by NHL Sense Arena. We're going to dive deep into glove breaks at the Hockey Shop. And in our parent segment, presented by Stop It Goaltending You, the app, we're going to talk about the frustrations we feel when the referee doesn't seem to be doing enough to protect our kids. All that, and a look at our most recent pro reads from Visual Edge, with Washington's Charlie Lindgren talking RVH and scanning the ice. But first, let's welcome in the guru of goaltending, sparing no expense to talk tendies, with us all the way from the beaches of Maui, Kevin Woodley. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, it'd be better if I was at the beach, eh? We'd have a little background noise there. You might hear a few waves washing in the background as we talk now. And in addition to the feature interview with Raygan Kirk, it was awesome. It was done from here. There is no such thing as a vacation, my friend. But I am not going to complain when I'm talking goaltending with a backdrop of surf waves crashing. So life is good. Life is good. Hope everyone had a fantastic Christmas. And looking forward to 2025.
As am I. But why don't we just get on with the show? Because we've got a busy week. We've got a whole lot going on. And I know everybody wants to, I know you want to get back to the waves. So let's first tell us about this week's pro read with Charlie Lindgren, presented by our friends at Visual Edge.
Let's start by talking about Visual Edge. Obviously, our guest last week on the In Goal Radio podcast, Christopher Eberle. And by the way, just a coincidence that we've got back-to-back Ohio State University goalies on the show.
That's right.
But we heard Christopher Eberle talk to us about the benefits of his use of Visual Edge. And of course, he doesn't even count. He's in the NCAA, so he's not even included in the more than 50 NHL and American Hockey League goaltenders that are currently using Visual Edge, the number one goalie vision and cognitive training tool. You've heard me talk about it before. It really is, you start with a test, you walk through all the different elements, just using their glasses and a computer screen, get your measurements on the key various elements of your ability to see, sort of how we see the puck, and then they start training you on how to improve the ones that are weak, strengthens the ones that are strong. It really is, Visual Edge helps pros and you see and read the game better, which makes them the perfect sponsor for our pro read segment, which is all about reading the game at an advanced level. And nobody better to walk us through reading the game than Charlie Lindgren this week of the Washington Capitals. Really enjoyed it. I enjoy all of his. Thought we'd mix him in a little earlier than he was scheduled to because of that windmill butter stack save he made that was probably going to end up on most highlight of the years. And so we did it's a little more controlled save in pro reads this week, but some great advice from Charlie on not just the importance of looking off the puck, but when to look off the puck when you're facing a power play and how that sets him up to make a save on the back door. And the importance also of playing in control, something that he admits in this week's pro reads he might not have done on the same save just a few years earlier, staying within his post, staying collected, and the read that enables him to do that and the importance of that, all rolled out with video breakdown. Charlie Lindgren on this week's Pro Reads presented by Visual Edge. And of course, you can find that at ingoalmag.com. It's probably on the main page still, but if you're ever looking for Pro Reads, just click on the Pro Reads header and you'll see all 35 plus goalies listed, and you can walk through all their videos and get advice from all of them on how to read the game better yourself.
And quick shout out to listener Trevor Jameson, who sent me a note and mentioned that his 10-year-old goaltender watches pro reads and gets a lot out of them, especially from his favorite goalie, Freddie Anderson. And I know a lot of parents are probably thinking sitting down with an NHL goalie to watch how they read the game probably isn't for their young kid. And I love it that Trevor mentioned to us that it really does help younger goalies as well. One of the great things about how we put them together is they're in small bite-sized pieces and they walk you through it in a sort of a teaching format as well. So even the youngest kids really can watch these videos, just a couple of minutes, get a little piece out of them, Woody.
Yeah, we try and make it a little educational, right? Like we ask you questions, we show you freeze frames most weeks where you can say, hey, this is what the goalie's looking at. What are the details that matter? What would you be looking for in this situation? Here's how he plays it. Would you do anything differently? And obviously at different ages and different skill levels, we're not teaching 10-year-olds to go into a reverse VH, but there are still takeaways, especially when it talks about scanning the ice in this week's Pro Reads with Charlie Lindgren, that apply at all different levels. So, and then honestly, if you don't feel like walking through step by step and really thinking through the play yourself, you can just skip to the video and hear what the NHL goalie has to say. So we've got something for everyone there. You might not have the patience to do a little reading and a little, we don't want it to feel like homework all the time, but we try and make it educational. And for those of you that want to go through that process, it's there most weeks. Sometimes we just go straight to the video when it's a rush read and speed is key. But this week is one where we've got a nice little, question and answer. You can ask yourself some questions as you watch it and then listen to Charlie Lindgren explain how he saw it and why he played it the way he did.
There you go. A new one every week. A subscription to ingoalmag.com gets you all of those pro reads. $35 a year. How can you beat it?
I can't even buy lunch down here for that, Hutch.
I bet you can't, buddy. I do hope that next year maybe we can record this end of year podcast from the beach together. That would be a lot of fun. But before that, I wonder what Cam is up to over at the hockey shop right now in between Christmas and New Year.
He's probably marking down discounts for early in the new year as he waits for a whole bunch of new gear to arrive. And that said, as much as it's a lot of sales stuff coming out of Boxing Day and discounts to be had all over the store as Cam prepares for all the latest and greatest to come in, the reality is there's also new stuff coming in on the regular. New stick from True. New gear from Vaughn arrived in the past couple of weeks. So if you've got questions about that, if you want to check it out, if you want to look for the sales merch, our American listeners may be like, what's he talking about Boxing Day? That's sort of the original, Boxing Day is kind of like, did we start it?
Black Friday.
Well, it is our Black Friday, but I feel like Boxing Day existed long before Black Friday was a big thing in the States. So this is, for American listeners, Boxing Day is our Black Friday. It starts on December 26th. The sale is on at the hockey shop right now. Tons of huge discounts, up to 50% off. Some amazing merchandise. So make sure you check it out, hockeyshop.com, or in person. If you have questions, make sure you reach out to them. Cam and his crew will make sure not only do you get the best price on the gear, but you get the best gear for your game.
I remember when Boxing Day was people lining up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get those crazy door crasher specials. Did you ever do that, Woody?
Yeah, A&B Sound here in Vancouver. All our BC listeners will know for sure what I'm talking about. And here's the tie-in, folks. We used to go line up we had these things called CDs and tapes that you used to go. A&B Sound was a music store, and we used to go line up because they would have massive sales on Boxing Day, and as well as all the players, cassette players, everything, car, CD players for your car when they first came out were a big deal. Tape players before that. Massive savings at A&B Sound on Boxing Day, and people literally would line up overnight to be the first through the door to get those savings. And to tie this back to the hockey shop, before they moved to Langley, the location in Surrey was actually the old A&B Sound store. So You're bringing back a lot of memories for all our Vancouver listeners, especially of a certain generation, a certain vintage like myself. And this week, with that, let's go to the new location of the hockey shop, Source for Sports, in Langley, about 20 minutes away from that old spot. Massive in comparison. They used to have 3 levels at the old place. The new place just has 1, but it's way bigger, over 30,000 square feet of hockey greatness, including the goalie corner with Cam, where we're going to catch up this week and talk about glove breaks and how the different brands and different models compare. If you're coming from one brand and you're used to, say, the CCM or True nomenclature, 580, 590, 600, what do the other brands, Bryans, Vaughn, Warrior, how do their brakes compare, and what model will get you a similar feel to the one you're used to? It's a long one. It's a detailed one. It breaks down a ton of information, and it's Cam sharing all of it with us at the hockey shop this week. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, Source for Sports. We're over in Goalie Utopia. We're with Cam Matwiv, where we felt it was time to update our glove break video. It's been a few years.
It has.
We walked you through the different sort of common nomenclatures around glove break angles and tried to fit in each different brand to show you which model sort of fit each type of closure. It's not a perfect science. They're not all exact, but we're going to try and get it as close from a fit, feel, break angle standpoint as we can. We're going to start with CCM just because they use the sort of standard 580, 590, 600 break angles, even though their newer versions are 581, 591, like they've made those changes. But again, we'll do the explanation, then we'll grab all the other gloves and sort of show how their break angles are similar or the same in each model. So we'll start. Oh, you need
Quick note. Psh, disclaimer. This is based off of what you and I perceive of these angles, based off of, once again, doing this for a long time. You've been doing this for a long time. These are the ones that we believe will fall into these categories. You might not necessarily agree with some of the things we have to say because all of these can feel a little bit different through person to person.
Reality is, depending on the size of your hand, depending on how far you stick it in, like how that break angle is in the glove and how it feels or how your hand closes around it or pulls through it is going to be different from goalie to goalie.
Exactly.
That's just the reality. I also think that Cam just wanted a disclaimer because that little asterisk that Hutch put up on the video is the closest.
So back to regularly scheduled programming.
It'll ever be to a star.
Continue.
580 for ICM. So this is what I got in my hand here.
90-degree style closure.
So we see that 90-degree style closure.
That duckbill, like T folding over at the top. Very classic look.
That's the signature.
Correct.
Of the 580. That little fold over. A lot of goalies like it because they're up here. They got coverage right by their ear. The break angle on this one, Cam, like in terms of how it folds into the hand. Again, it's going to feel different for everyone, but it kind of feels like the index finger pulls into a little bit into the thumb.
Correct.
And the thumb straight up.
Yes.
Like that. It's the only time you're ever getting that from me, Cam.
Perfect. Okay. So we'll go through a bunch of the gloves, but let's set the table here with...
So that's 580
Yes.
and 581.
Correct.
Just different sort of internals on it, but same idea.
590. So, classic style closure. Very, very popular in the NHL. When we're looking at it as it closes.
Just put it side by side there, Cam. Can we get it close enough?
There we go.
Torque.
Get that a little close. So that index finger coming down more down to the base of your thumb. That thumb tilted a little bit further forward based off of that 580. Without getting too deep into the weeds out of it, there's also the 591 from CCM. Once again, we'll go through the rest of it.
Internals are different. The strapping is different, but the idea of the break angle is the same.
That's correct.
Okay.
Last but not least.
600. There was a time when it was last but the most. Maybe a little less so.
Yes, not as prevalent, but again, gloves that are similar and other gloves that have taken over that level of popularity. So you're closing it more of that full hand closure, almost like a roll of quarters in the center of your hand as you're going to go close that glove.
I feel like this one, this is the one that we've said, and again, it may feel different for everyone. This is the one we've said that, feels more like a first baseman's mitt.
Yes.
Where it's sort of that glove out to pocket.
Like that roll of quarters in the center of your hand as you go to go close.
Yeah, you got a good analogy too, Cam. We'll let you have that.
That's fine.
Sort of more out here, fingers closing like that. I mean, where the pocket is relative to your hand is a big part of this conversation.
Exactly.
You can sort of see in the 600, it's more out here. The 590 and the 580, I got both 580s, 590. You can see when we close them, sort of where the pocket sits relative to the hand. And so, I remember having this conversation with Mike Vaughn back in his factory in Michigan, like more than a decade ago, about how for them, the different, like if you're wearing a glove and you're missing, say you're wearing a 590 and you're having a bunch of pucks go off the end of it, then changing to a glove where the pocket is situated more out here as opposed to up above the top of your thumb might help you. These are the types of things, the types of conversations. If you're missing everything in a glove in a certain spot or not getting in the pocket, changing the break hand can actually affect where the pocket sits relative to your hand. So that's one thing to keep in mind as we start to work through all the different brands with all the different breaks. I think we should start with...
Let's get into the weeds with it. Let's start
580.
Yep.
Give us the 580s. The 580s have assembled. We showed you the CCM off the bat.
Yes.
We have options.
Yeah,
Warrior, a sort of hidden secret one from Vaughn's, Brian's, the Vapor 90 from Bauer, which has gained a lot of infamy. I gotta be honest, this is such a popular glove. All they have in the True for 580 is a demo glove, but you can, of course, order more through the hockey shop. They've sold out off the rack, but they'll get you some more if you want a custom order. So we've established what the 580 is.
Yes.
In terms of how it feels, and that Cam called it a duck fill. Never heard it before, but that little bit of overlap. Great for sort of getting that one by your ear. Now, the different options. So Bauer, let's start with Bauer. Vapor 90 glove. Now this is only, we've talked about this a lot recently. It's only sort of come on the market in recent years.
Correct.
For the longest time, it was pro only, but now you can get it off the rack, a 580 break from Bauer.
Correct. Nice, easy feel. Stock Vapor 90, you will see all white, single T. So here's the thing too, quick asterisk once again, single T versus double T.
Wants the star.
Yes, here we go. So a lot of this is based off of feel once again. That said, in theory, a double T adds more visibility, and in theory, you can fit more pucks by volume inside a double T.
Like this double T
Correct.
on the 580 CCM.
Now, that said, personally, I like single T because I like the feeling of that puck hitting that single T. That's my key for my closure. Once again, a feel-based thing, but quick note. So, moving forward.
I'm going to leave that one alone because the idea of a puck actually hitting the pocket of Cam's glove seems like a little ridiculous to me, to be honest with you.
It is ridiculous, but it happens all the time.
Okay, show me the Bryans.
Bryans, once again, new player in the market with their Eclipse glove, really creating that fold over on that 580 feel. This glove really makes you want to...
Little windmill Wednesday from Cameron there, eh?
Wednesday.
Again, another new model. This was not available. Bryans didn't. This is only in the last year or so that they've offered this. Again, the demand for the 580 has led to brands creating a 580 product.
Yes, lots of lace, thinner single T by stock design. Lots of absorption on that puck hitting that T.
Vaughn, SLR4.
Yes, not just specific to the SLR4, also
This
available.
is a particular model?
Yes, but it's a particular angle. So they consider this their 70-degree closure. That said, when you actually go close it, it's very oddly familiar to all of these 580s.
I want to feel. Well, you grab the Warrior. Oh, I see what you mean. So this is it. You have to ask for their 70-degree break. So in Vaughn, 70-degree break is sort of the closest to that 580 feel.
Yes, as they start to streamline their lines to make it a little bit easier to understand, this is something you can find in the SLR4 as well as the XP glove in particular. So, Warrior, their 7.1 glove. So the way that they describe their gloves is wide opening and long opening. The 7.1 has this long opening, but also quite similarly feels like a 580.
Let me see that. Okay.
Oh, you see how he gets that little... There's our... Yeah, there it is.
Got to bend it over a little bit.
Yes. So, this covers our 580 gloves. Level of similarity. We already talked about the CCM. The CCM's the standard that we're using.
Okay. We've got them all.
Okay.
Bring on the 590s. We're back. The 590s have arrived.
Yes.
All of them.
What kind of closure is this?
A 590.
A 60-degree break on the hand.
60.
Let's really start to bake the noodles here.
Don't make me think, because that makes me think of the 600.
I know, but it's not.
We said we wouldn't get into the weeds on the math, just the feel and generic.
Okay.
So
Back to... Okay.
590, we established that sort of closure in like this to the thumb.
Yes.
That's the feel. Let's start with the Bauer.
Okay, Hyperlight 2.
Hyperlight 2. So your
Hyperlight
stock Hyperlight 2.
Stock Hyperlight
590 break.
Yes, there is no other such thing. Hyperlight 2 is always going to be that.
If I wanted to have it skinned as a Supreme, I could do that in the customizer?
Yes.
Okay.
But now we're into the customization thing. That's
Just wanted to message you.
Stock Hyperlight 2, always.
590. Bauer. Hyperlight 2. True. They've kind of, they're like the OGs like CCM, 580, 590, 600.
Quick note, they're stock lines. So 7X, 9X, and either 3 or 4 are all going to be 590 break.
Okay.
Also, once again, we get them to the customizer, catalyst versus hazardous. Doesn't matter. You're going off of break angle. They will be the exact same gloves, just different graphics.
And that's still 590 stock, or
Yes.
you're customizing?
Doesn't matter, even when you're customizer. Same thing, just different graphic.
Okay, Vaughn, 590. What do they call it?
the XP glove, but as you look inside the cuff, it says 60-degree closure.
So that's kind of the same thing.
Yes, very, very similar to
So Vaughn XP,
Vaughn XP.
60 degrees.
60-degree. Not the 70. That one's the 580.
Brian, so you do this one.
Optic 4.
Optic 4 is a 590 break.
New glove.
But they call it something different.
Yes, their nomenclature is a bit different when it's coming to gloves.
What is this? What's the break angle on this one, Mr. 60 degree?
So they call theirs the 40-degree. Which, you know what? It feels like a 590. Okay?
I is confused.
Yeah, hey, this is what we're here
Told
for.
me it was 60 degrees, Cam.
Yes, but they say it's 40.
Okay.
Based off of their protractor that they take onto their gloves. You know what? Listen, this is again what we were talking about earlier.
It feels more like a 590.
Exactly. And once again, this is based off of our feelings, regardless of the naming nomenclature that comes with it. It feels like a 590. Like that one right there.
Okay, so CCM, we talked about this at the beginning. They've got a 590, and of course, they've changed the internals and the strapping to call it a 591, the different finger pockets, but the idea of the brake being the same is there.
Correct. And again, you still have both options available at custom. So if
Stock is 591.
Stock is 591, and that is in particularly the Axis XF. But when you order custom, you can order a regular 590.
Bring on the 600!
No.
Oh, I missed one. Damn it.
You almost forgot about Warrior. So, Warrior, bit of an interesting caveat to this too as well, because Warrior has different palms that you can put into their gloves. Their stock glove, 75-degree closure, according to them. This is where, again, we're talking about feel based on what we feel. But as you go close this, very, very similar to a 590.
And it's called a what?
The Warrior G 7.0. 7.1, 580-ish. 7.0, 590-ish.
Okay. Does it come in colors that don't remind me of the Canucks' old ugly uniforms?
You can custom order whatever you'd like.
Okay. My turn to say not quite ready for the 600. You teased us with this palm stuff? Like different palms? You gotta explique.
The 7.0 glove stock has a removable palm, and you can actually replace it with two different palms. So they have a 60-degree, they have a 75-degree, which comes stock in the glove, and they also have a 90-degree. What that means is I will change how your hand closes, but it's only going to be on that break angle itself.
So the break angle doesn't change, but how your hand sits in the glove relative to that break angle changes depending on which palm you put in the glove.
Remember you alluded to earlier about how you put your hand into the glove and where exactly it sits? That is kind of stressing that exact same point. So, hey, it's the same break angle.
So the three different palms create three different breaks, which are similar to what?
So it's still based off of, once again, a 590.
But you can put your hand in there so you're closing it like this or closing it like this or
So here's a quick note. I had a glove previously like this in the past, and I chose the 90-degree palm because it tilted my fingers a little bit more upright. And I liked the way that felt. But it was still a 590 style closure.
Did you have less ugly colors?
But great catching.
Okay. I believe that when I see it. However, it is now indeed time to bring on the 600s. We've got the 600s, but we're a little low on stock on some of them. So we already showed you the CCM. Bauer 600 brake, Supreme line.
Shadow, formerly known as Mach.
That one feels to me, and again, everybody put their hand in different, but that one feels like that first baseman's mitt closure. You can sort of see where that pocket is. See the pocket out. Like if my fingers are here, the pocket's out here instead of being up here. I mean, I can go fingers up.
One of the things that I think really starts to make the hallmark of a 600 brake, though, is that really open, wide pocket. This travel space here to here.
It's almost wide enough for me to catch the odd puck in the pocket.
Exactly.
That is like,
that
doesn't happen very often.
So, Shadow.
Can I just pause? We should put it like the link to our Shadow review up here because that is a nice glove.
We could.
I like that glove.
For that matter, all of the ones could pop up right now.
Okay, we don't have a true. Again, they just don't have it in stock here at the hockey shop right now. But of course, if you want a custom order, if you want Cam to just order one and have it on the rack, they don't have one now, but it is available. True, of course, 580, 590, 600. They've got them all.
Correct.
Vaughn, you do have it in stock.
Yes, V10 Pro Carbon.
V10 Pro Carbon is their 600 brake.
Correct. Soon to be replaced by a new model.
We're just doing this. What do you mean it's going to be soon to be replaced?
But it's going to be the same thing, so it's okay.
So it's going to be called V10 Pro Carbon or just their Pro Carbon?
No, they're the X1.
Okay. What do they call this brake?
50 degree.
50 degree.
50 degree.
So we talked about 70 degree in Vaughn is a 580. 60 degree in Vaughn is a 590.
50 degree in 600. Yes.
So again, yeah, but you have different models and different, so that's what you need to know.
Exactly.
Okay, now you know what you need to know. Bryant.
Iconic. Just like me. So,
You're iconic, all right.
once again, we've hit one of those controversial gloves a little bit in terms of
What
finding
makes it controversial other than the name iconic?
our definition of 600 versus 590. And you've told me this before. You feel like this glove closes a lot closer to a 590, but the look and overall shape is a lot closer to a 600.
Okay. Okay, I can see how this one's kind of in between.
35 degree closure as marked by them.
So again, the feel isn't the same, but we said it isn't about the feel. That'll feel different for everyone in terms of where the pocket is and the angle. It kind of is a little more out past the
A
finger.
little bit closer to that first baseman style of the glove.
So closer, but different. So it sort of fits in that category. And last but not least, we already talked about the Warrior glove and how if you put a different palm in it, it can feel.
Yes, but again, you see a return of similar thing that we already talked about as well. Cuts, once again, you do put that 60 degree palm in here, which is really going to start to bake your go. It feels closer to 600. This is going to be a video altogether, folks. Don't worry about this. We are going to go over the Warrior and their different palms.
Consider my noodle baked, but also consider you now have a complete rundown. Best as we can do it, closest in terms of fit and brake angle, in terms of how all the different brands and different models fit into those three basic categories of 580, 590, and 600. So if you ever are wondering, new releases, we've got you covered. Just come back to this video over and over and over again.
Okay. Or if you call 604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790, we can chat. Any of my goal guys can chat.
And just remember, fantastic breakdown of all of those gloves, Woody.
I see what you did there.
Thank you. You can also head over to YouTube, check out the In Goal page over on YouTube. All the gear segments are there, and you might really enjoy this one because, of course, you can see everything they're talking about. We show the comparison of the different breaks and so on, and give it a lot of context that maybe the audio didn't, but you might just be driving to that holiday hockey tournament right now while you're listening to the podcast. So hope you got something out of it in the audio version as well. Okay, this week, there's a lot of parents in tournaments, and I've heard from some already who are a little frustrated about their kids getting banged up and the referees not blowing that whistle fast enough. So I thought we might address that a little bit in this week's parent segment presented by our good friends at Stop It Goaltending U, the app, Woody.
Yeah, we over at Stop It Goaltending U, the app, in addition to every subscription coming with a subscription to In Goal Magazine premium content and all those per reads that I just talked about, it's included with your sub to SIGU, the app. But I think maybe this week, after they listen to the parent segment, they want to check out last week's primers, the daily primers. Every week at Stop It Goaltending U, the app, they have daily primers, quick 1 minute plus videos that you can watch to sort of reset yourself. Sometimes it's mindset. Last week was gratitude. I feel like that might be a big one for all those parents who are worried about how the referees are treating their kids in the crease. So 5 parts on gratitude. This week, they're looking at habits, daily habits for hydration, sleep, nutrition, training, game day. They've also got longer deep dives. If you want to spend a little more time on video, you get the 1 minute daily primers. Then they've got a longer deep dive. Anthony Stolarz of the Toronto Maple Leafs, currently recovering from a knee surgery, out 4 to 6, but they take a look at his playbook, how he manages different situations, advice and things you can glean from that will translate to your game. And if you want to look at last week's deep dive, they took a look at Jeremy Swayman and the difference between drifting and holding your feet, sort of retreating, or as they call it in Boston, recoil, versus holding your edges and holding your feet in the face of an attack. So a really good video breakdown there as well. That's the type of content you get weekly. at Stop It Goaltending U, the app. And of course, like I said, with your subscription, it always includes a subscription to us, In Goal Magazine Premium, where you get the pro reads, the pro drills, the pro gear. Hutch, we got a great little one where Spencer Knight walks us through Sergei Bobrovsky's stick handle this week, live at ingoalmag.com. It's a great breakdown that we bring you. And of course, it's included with your Stop It Goaltending U, the app subscription as well. So make sure you check them out now. Available on the Apple Store or wherever you normally access apps. I got to be honest, as an Apple guy, I'm not even sure what that's called. Google Play Store, I guess, Hutch, for the rest of the world.
I think so, yeah.
So wherever you get your apps, go look up Stop It Goaltending U, the app, and download it now.
You just have to get your weekly newsletter from In Goal, and there's a link right in there that takes you straight to the page where you can get the app. I loved the Spencer Knight piece you did, Woody, this week, because it sort of embodies everything that was the intent behind In Goal when we started. It was, you're privileged enough to be in the locker room with all these guys, and we wanted that ability to bring everybody along with us and let them enjoy that experience too. And there's a video shot right in there with Spencer walking us through his stick, just like we're all along for the ride with you, Woody.
Different access, different guys, different rooms, different openness on that kind of stuff. Sure. But Spencer's been so supportive of us for all these years, dating back to his draft. Remember the interviews we had heading into his draft?
That's right.
Which was here in Vancouver. Getting to cover that was a real privilege. I'm fond of this young man. I really like his attitude, his approach. I like his game. I love a lot about what he brings to the position, including the mindset and, of course, the openness to share time with us at ingoalmag.com. And the premium product, and obviously the subscription product. And Spencer, we can't thank you enough for taking the time to do that. I think it's a really cool one because obviously we've heard a lot about Bob's paddle and sort of the uniqueness of the slope shoulders. We've seen CCM make it a stock option, that more heavily sloped shoulder on their latest XF Pro sticks. But I love adding the custom tape and how he mixes in sort of grip tape with regular, well, in this case, not regular, Panthers colored red sock tape, to add a little bit of slide and slippiness so that the hand doesn't get locked into one position, as well as explaining to us when he uses the different positions holding his stick along that slope shoulder situationally. So you can check it all out at ingoalmag.com. But Hutch, I've digressed significantly here. I need to hear about the parent segment, and I need to hear about referees not giving or protecting your goalies enough, because that's something I've experienced in beer league. I tend to run a little hot, though. I'm wondering if parents are doing the same.
Oh, you do. And people are really experiencing the full In Goal thing right here, aren't they? As we just hop from topic to topic. And this is what a day in the car with Woody and I is.
This is what happens when Darren's not here to keep us on the rails.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so here we go. This week for the parents. I might lose my goalie parent union membership this week, Woody. But the first thing I'm going to say is that we all need to take a breath. Go watch a junior hockey game. Go watch an NHL game. Maybe if you're lucky enough, go watch Kevin Woodley play beer league. Players are crashing the crease, falling on the goalie accidentally on purpose, jamming at pucks until well after whistles. I've always lived by the mantra of begin with the end in mind, Kevin. And we all want our kids to play at the highest level if that's their dream. So how do we prepare them for it? Now, I'm not saying that the standard should be the same as it is for the pros, not at all. But what can we do to prepare our kids for it? If you find yourself getting mad as players are trying to dislodge the puck from under pads and gloves and they're slashing away at the goalie and so on, try and remember they have well-protected gloves, they have well-protected arms, and aside from the occasional surprise or stinger that slips through the cracks, they're not going to get hurt. Certainly no more than any player engaged in multiple puck battles a game in the corner. A side note to this, 5 and 6 year olds don't always have gear that protects them very well and should be playing in a more controlled environment. And if they're not, you need to have a quiet conversation with the coach and just make sure that they understand that. But for the rest of us, let's try and help them learn the right mindset. And that's to love the battle that's happening in front of the net. To know it's to their advantage as a goaltender if they don't care what's happening there or if they even love it. With the very rare exception, goalies who get upset, Kevin, goalies who get frustrated by all the action around them, let in more pucks. They get more angry and everything that happens around them, they let even more pucks in. So it's going to happen. And the only way our kid comes out on top is to let it be water under the bridge. Gone are the days of Ron Hextall, Billy Smith, and Kevin Woodley. How often do you see an NHL goalie today lashing out and slashing players? Kevin, how often does it happen? Guy doesn't like his gloves being slashed. Do you see him pulling the lumber out anymore? Not really.
Elvis Merzlikins had a couple good moments that everybody applauded.
There's a couple.
It's pretty few and far between these days.
And why is that? Because it's a distraction and it doesn't help you stop the puck. So, as with almost all things that seem like adversity on the ice, find a way to turn them to your advantage by developing the mindset that you just don't care, or maybe that you even love it. Now, to the parents that are upset that the whistle isn't blowing fast enough, there is no actual rule about it. Yes, they're supposed to blow the whistle when they lose sight of the puck, but there is a degree of judgment involved in that. So if the ref has a slow whistle, getting upset is of zero value to you. Is it going to help change the way they officiate? No. Is it going to help teach your child to deal with the situation better? No. Have you ever heard of a parent complaining about an official ever helping? Probably not. The only thing that you can do here is to help your child learn to look past it and not care or even love it. Don't encourage them to fight back. The pros don't do it. So why is it going to help a kid? Now, I know what Woody's thinking here. What about guys running into the goalie and crashing the crease? I hate to say it, but I pretty much have the same advice. There are dangerous situations, and of course we don't want our kids getting concussed, and the coach should have a conversation with the officials to make sure that they protect your kid. But there's nothing you can do on your side to help your kid deal with it, except to help them learn to love the situation as best they can. No, they're not going to love the headshots, but to be proud of them when they look past it and they get up and do their job as best they can. So as my kid was growing up, I'd reinforce when he did things well. As I've said here before, I try to catch them being good. So I might say something like, I loved it when you were laughing after that crease battle. You must really frustrate the other team when you do that. Or some other variation. I might say, I know it's no fun when guys crash into you, but the way you just stayed focused and got ready for the next play was amazing. So get them the best equipment that you can afford, get a helmet that fits, gloves that protect, and then teach them to battle, not literally, Kevin, and to enjoy the battle. That is the only way to turn a disadvantage into a positive for your child. And yes, I know as a parent, it's frustrating. None of us like to see our child get hurt, but we're no example to our kid getting upset outwardly. We teach them with our behavior. We're no help to them or to ourselves by keeping it bottled up inside either. So years later and plenty of frustration later, I promise you, I'm no different than anybody else here. When there's a battle in front of my kid's net and a 200-pound 20-year-old is crashing into him, I simply reflect on it and say, I know he loves this. The other team thinks they're getting under his skin, but they're only making him more powerful. So hang in there. It's a tough journey, everybody, but you're going to get through it.
Don't be Woody. And actually, it's funny, like the Jeremy Swayman 2 years ago in the playoffs, I think it was game 7, Florida ties the game late. I can't remember if it was the game tying goal or the winning goal. And I don't mean to pick on him, but I know he's talked about this since, but there was a moment there where the ultimate rat, and I say that with great affection, Matthew Tkachuk, who was all over the crease and all over the goaltenders, where he had a moment where he was distracted, and I think he took a swipe at him. And in that moment, the puck was shot and it ends up in the net. I may not be remember this exactly, but it was along those lines of that brief, I'm going to take a swipe at you at the top of my crease rather than focus on stopping the puck, was costly in a critical moment. So learning to let that go really is important. And as I said, don't be Woody. Before quitting beer league, because I recognized that the idiots that crashed the crease, if the referees weren't going to handle it and there wasn't going to be any protection, I just got tired of fighting it. So I just play a different organized hockey now and not at the beer league level, because there's no point in fighting City Hall, so to speak. But my old mantra used to be, okay, if you're not going to call it, then the next time he does it, because inevitably the same idiot will do it over and over again, I'm just going to make sure that my stick is up near his teeth as he cuts through. And
don't teach your kids to do that.
Definitely don't teach your kids to do that. All it ends up doing is costing me goals and creating brouhahas around the crease. And I didn't even get to knock any teeth out when I did it. So didn't do me any good. Didn't help me. just let in goals, just led to more frustration, and probably not my finest moment. So don't be Woody. Do as Hutch does. Follow his advice. I'm the idiot in this equation and not the one to look up to.
Yes, well, do as I say, not as I do, because I have definitely been scored on because I've been too busy slashing away at guys in front of me. Because we hear from guys on our team and coaches who think it's cool, and they don't realize the implications of what's really happening when you get distracted. So,
yeah, the old cup check on the screen's a good one every once in a while.
I'll take the fifth on that one.
Just don't get caught. That's good. That's the one they're gonna call. And
Yeah,
listen,
no kidding.
and I'm joking. Obviously, I'm kidding around. But in all seriousness, if you engage, and then that, like you said, Hutch, 20-year-old 200-pounder falls on your knees when you're in a butterfly, which is maybe the worst thing we can have happen. You've given them a reason. You've given them excuse, and probably given the officials a chance to not make a call when they retaliate.
Well, and quite frankly, you're probably going to lose that battle. My kid, as a 12-year-old, got asked to go out to a captain's skate with a junior A team here in town. Didn't have a goalie in town. And there was a 20-year-old who just come out of the Western Hockey League standing in front of his net, and he was whacking away at this kid and whacking away at this kid. And I said, buddy, he's going to turn around and you're going to lose that battle real fast. So he still didn't really care because he loves the battle, but you got to be careful out there, folks. Look, it is time to get to our feature interview, and I'm really excited to hear from Raygan Kirk.
Yeah, she was great. Thanks to James Wendland, who helped us set this up, does some work, obviously, with Kristen Campbell, and has done some work with Raygan as well. A reminder.
And lots of stuff over at ingoalmag.com from our friend James Wendland.
That's right. And a reminder, folks, I say it at the end of this interview, but I want to remind you up front that our feature interview presented by NHL Sense Arena. The PWHL, we talked about A and B Sound and all our Vancouver audience. I know we've got a lot of listeners here in the Lower Mainland. The PWHL is headed on the road. They've got games in Vancouver coming up early in the new year, games in Seattle. So your opportunity to watch the best women in the world playing hockey in the new PWHL, second year PWHL league. So just make sure you check out. Look for tickets, are available still, I believe. I'll be there for sure with In Goal, trying to get you some fresh content. But in the meantime, previewing that was a great opportunity to catch up with Raygan Kirk. And before we get to her, Hutch, though, NHL Sense Arena presenting our feature interview.
Yeah, they sure are. And this is practically another parents segment because I was on the parents Facebook group this week, Woody, and saw somebody asking, what can my kid do away from the ice? It's a little frustrating that players can shoot pucks in the backyard endlessly to get better, and all my goalie can do is bounce balls off the wall unless I'm willing to stand out there for hours shooting on them. Well, the answer is really easy. It's NHL Sense Arena. It's like having all the ice that you want and a pile of private coaches putting training plans together for you, facing shooters, screens, power play, even NHL and PWHL shooters if you want a real challenge. And it's all wrapped up in an entertaining, challenging virtual reality platform that you can use for hours on end. And if you ask me, NHL Sense Arena beats anything that players shooting pucks are doing in their backyard. But if your other kid is a player, they actually have a player's version of NHL Sense Arena as well. So head over to sensearena.com, everybody. Grab their holiday 50% off sale for an annual plan, and you'll get even more off if you use the code IGM50 today. NHL Sense Arena, it's the best off-ice training tool for goaltenders.
Speaking of ways to get better, I would suggest listening to this interview with Raygan Kirk. There's lots of great advice. This is a very young goaltender, rookie in the PWHL, just starting her professional career, but already so well accomplished. 2019, under 18s, undefeated, MVP, wins gold for Canada. Ohio State University, MVP of the national championship game in a tight 1-0 victory. She has been through a lot in her career, including Robert Morris University closing its program, which necessitated the move to Ohio State. She has accomplished a lot already, and there's a lot in her future, and she has advice on her path that will help you along the way as well, whether it's how to handle tryouts, how to handle those big moments, how her stance has adapted and adjusted as her game has matured, and also some lessons for the late bloomers out there. This is somebody who didn't start being a goaltender full-time until grade 7 or 8. And by grade 12, actually grade 11, was getting offers from NCAA schools. So we get into all that, as well as what's the deal with Manitoba goaltenders when it comes to the women's game. Some of the best in the world.
We need Darren Millard here.
I know Darren misses 1 week, and we're absolutely, it can't be tight. Let me give you a hint. She doesn't mention Darren Millard once in terms of her inspirations and the reasons for Manitoba goaltending being so great. But there is plenty of other takeaways in the feature interview this week with Raygan Kirk of the Toronto Sceptres, presented by NHL Sense Arena. Really excited to welcome to the In Goal Radio podcast, first time guest. And actually, she's actually not doesn't realize this as we start, but Raygan Kirk continues 2 weeks in a row now, Ohio State. We had Christopher Eberle on last week. This wasn't planned. We'd been meaning to catch up with you in January when you come to Vancouver with the PWHL, but something opened up. You were gracious enough to hop on early. So I guess first off, congratulations. Not only on we'll get to the national championship in a bit last year, but first win with PWHL Toronto Sceptres the other night. How does it feel?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for having me on. And I think that win, the season's been great so far. I think we're learning a lot as a team, and it's, great to have a league and just a place to play too. I know all the girls are so appreciative of it. And yeah, that last, few nights ago was a dream come true for me personally. So
does the fact you'd played a couple already, like what's your first appearance was relief, if I have that correctly? Does that in some way make it easier? You don't have to think about it?
I think a little bit. So it was in New York in the third period. We were down 4-0 and just kind of got the nod, like, you ready to go? And I was like, hell yeah, kind of thing. And I think, in that setting, it kind of, there's not the expectation that we're probably going to win, I mean, obviously anything can happen, but I think it was good just to get my feet wet and just feel comfortable and just going for the period there, and then getting the nod for Montreal too. I think having your first real start. I think if anything, I was more nervous for this past game, that second start, because now there's that expectation, like, oh, you can do this. This is how you play, and now it's just having to repeat that and have that same confidence coming over. So, it's been great to get in.
Okay, so advice for young goaltenders, because that's a big part of this show is just sort of sharing your experiences. We got a lot of parents and kids that listen on the way to their tournaments and games on the weekends. Whether it's a national championship last year with Ohio State, or heading into your first starts in the PWHL, how do you manage those expectations? Though, do I call them nerves for you? Everybody seems to be different in terms of how they feel going into big moments.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's definitely nerves, but I think we always say, like, if you feel that pressure, like, that's a privilege to be in a situation, whether it's national championship game or your first professional game. Like, that's such a privilege to be able to have that pressure and those nerves. And you just really have to go back. At least for me, I think as a goalie, it's such a mental game, just going back to knowing what your strengths are and having that confidence and, just building. I really build my confidence through practice. And then you just have to go out and play, and you kind of learn as you go, especially if it's, for me, my first league, every game I'm getting to play, it's all new for me. So learning all the rinks and learning the opposition and how our team plays against them, it's all just kind of a big learning curve for me.
So that learning curve of getting to the point where, hey, I've done the work in practice, I feel good going into a game no matter the situation. Does that just come with experience, or are there people along the way, sports psychologists maybe, or goalie coaches that have helped you sort of learn how to manage those different emotions and get to that point?
Yeah, I think definitely goalie coaches can be very helpful. Just kind of that scouting aspect of, like, here's just 3 things to focus on. And here's what they do, kind of sending tidbits throughout the week or, the night before. I think we're very fortunate to have a mental skills coach here. And so she's been super awesome, just, coming in as a rookie. And I used one in college as well. So I think if that's a resource that you have, like, take advantage of it. Sometimes it just helps to talk things over. And, it doesn't always have to be about hockey, but that's kind of how I use it for. And I think it can be very helpful just to narrow things down if you're feeling overwhelmed. And it's a big piece of the game. So
any tools that you've added along the way in terms of how to get to that mindset, or whether it's breath work or visualization that you find works for you that might work for others to hear?
Yeah, I think for me last year in college, I kind of focused on having like 3 pillars, and that I kind of ran through at the beginning of the game. And one was just like almost like focus on myself, like what I can control. So that's just breaking it down. Another one would be just keep it simple, like just play in between your posts, have good depth, just the little things. And then my last one was just finding a way to like have a chip on my shoulder, kind of getting myself into that space where you kind of have a bit of swagger and, I might not come off that way, like off the ice and stuff, but that's almost how I need to play. Like, that's just what I learned through college. Like, I need to have that little confidence, even, fake it till you make it almost, but just kind of hyping yourself up. And those were 3 things that I went through, after a TV timeout or in between periods. It was kind of something extra that I was doing last year, and I brought it into this year as well.
Okay, so chip on the shoulder. Like, it's interesting because I do think we've had some recent guests. Eric Comrie was one where he's in the National Hockey League and he's a chatty guy. And he felt like he had to be that quiet, serious guy on game days. And it took him a while to realize, no, I have to be me.
Yeah.
That chip on the shoulder thing, is that just like, hey, I need to have that. I need to have that. Did it take you a little while to discover that? And how did you unlock that? Because I do think every goalie is different. And sometimes we all try and do what other people are doing rather than who we need to be.
Yeah, I think you really just have to find what works for you. Like you said, every goalie is different. Like, some goalies just want to plug in the music, the headphones, and they just kind of zone in kind of before the game. And I'm someone I like to chat, and I like to play, the soccer and the keep up. Like, I'm not a big music. Like, I like to be involved and almost not overthinking the game until it's go time, until that puck's dropped kind of thing. You're working your way up. That's at least how I have just discovered through college, I think, is really, past 5 years, you kind of learn every year, especially in Ohio too, where those expectations are a little higher, obviously, playing for a number 1 team. So it's just kind of learning as you go, for sure.
Okay, so the expectations of a national championship game that stays nothing for large portions of it, is 1-0, is tight throughout. Again, lessons on staying in the moment. I find that's often the easiest thing for goalies to say, and for many of us, the hardest thing to do. But there you are with the national title on the line, all those pressures of Ohio State coming with it. How'd you stay focused?
Yeah, I think honestly, that was the funnest game I've ever played. Like, a lot of people have asked, like, were you nervous? All this build up. Once we got past that semifinal, like, I think the expectation, especially for the Buckeyes, and I'm sure Wisconsin, Minnesota, those big teams, is that you're making it to that final game or you're making it to the Final Four. So once we kind of got there, it was like, okay, now it's just all that work I put in. And yeah, it's 0-0 for a long time. I can't score for them, right? Like, but once we got that goal, I think everybody let out a big breath, and it's like, okay, like, now we go. We just have to play good D and hold it in. And that was probably the best defensive game I think we played all year. And I think for me, once you get those few shots, and I just tried to play it like it was any other game. You don't want to overthink it too much. So really just tried to focus on my strengths and just having fun with it, regardless of the outcome. That was my last college game. So I think that's where a lot of the emotions came for me, was like, oh, last pregame skate, last road trip, all these lasts for me. So I think that's where a lot of my emotions were coming from, for sure.
And managing those, I mean, you did it exceptionally well. MVP of the national championship game. Were there times during the game? Are you looking up in the stands for friends and family? Are you thinking about, wow, like, this is the last time I'll do this, last time I'll do that? Or once that puck drops, were you able to sort of push that aside?
I think once the puck dropped, that's where I really, put it aside, like you said. I remember we practiced, because in between the semi and the final, you had a day off. We practiced, and like that one, I felt a little emotional getting off the ice. Like, this is our last kind of practice before the big game. And I think just, in your 5th year, just all of a sudden it's over. Like, it really is the quickest, like, 5 years, 4 years, whatever, of your life kind of thing. So I just, really tried to enjoy it. It wasn't being distracted by the crowd or anything. The crowd was amazing. That was one of the biggest up until Pro League probably playing in front of. So that was pretty cool, getting to play in New Hampshire too. There's a lot of history in that building as well.
Okay, so I'm going to rewind a little bit. We sort of caught up a little bit on the net. I want to get into a little more PWHL and the early experiences there, but let's go back and tell me how you started and became a goaltender. What made you love this position?
Yeah, so my brother was actually a goalie before me. He's just over a year younger than me. So he started first, and I think every kid, you always want to be a net for mini sticks, or, when they're, the street hockey. So I kind of got into it that way, and then was really interested into it, but I was playing defense at the time, and I liked that as well. And then I think for our first women's team in St. Anne, we were looking for a goalie, and, I had the equipment already from my brother. So kind of just got in, and I was doing both for quite a while, would have both hockey bags basically in the car. And it was, do you need a goalie today or do you need a defense kind of thing? And okay, we'll get dressed regardless, and in one of the two. So And then I kind of made the switch. I want to say full time was like just before high school, like grade 8, maybe grade 7, kind of fully being like, this is what I want to do. And I think it's worked out for me. I always wondered, if I'd stay D, where would I be? But I think, my brother being a goalie, I think you always want to do what the brother's doing kind of thing. So tough on my parents having 2 goalies in the family.
Yeah, and they had to keep the players' equipment around too. So that's for at least for a little while there. Did you think I've asked this question before of a lot of people, and I get different opinions on it. Do you think it helped? Like, did it help you as a goalie, having played all those years as a defender? Sort of the patterns of the game we talk a lot about, seeing it from the other side of the puck every once in a while.
Yeah, I think it definitely helped me. I think just knowing where your D are supposed to be or how they're thinking, and I'm just kind of seeing it from that perspective where threats are, and also just starting later, you don't lose the love for it as easily, I guess. Some that can be often as younger. So I think trying out, if you get the opportunity to try out both positions, or same what they say with other sports as well, like I played a lot of sports growing up, like getting influenced in those different areas could definitely help you discover what you love the most. Like, you have to enjoy it, right? And that's when you'll end up playing it professionally, for sure.
Well, and I know, looking through some of the bios at school, love other sports and playing other activities. Do you still continue to, at what point do you have to say, oh, I'm a goalie only, or are you still managing to work in other activities, whether it's in the off season or even during the season?
I definitely, I play ball hockey over the summer or spring, and I play out during that. I'm not going in that, probably hurt myself. But just kind of that competitiveness, keeping it. You obviously don't want to hurt yourself and have to be smart that way. I really enjoyed playing soccer over the summer in high school. But now I've been playing, ball hockey the past few springs, and also slow pitch on my dad's his friend's team, just still staying active over the summer. I think, it's important for sure.
Okay. So ball hockey, are you sniping, or are you still back to defending?
I'm back to defending, yeah. Okay. But I like to shoot. Yeah, it's a good cardio for sure. Gets your cardio going. Well, and it's fun to be competitive. So.
Well, I mean, I just wondered if there's any sympathy for the goalie at the other end. I don't know if they, I remember when I was growing up and even into university, we didn't get the full goalie gear, and those little orange balls left a mark.
Yeah, and now they have the rolly pads, because it's tough. When you don't have skates, I've gone in for once when we needed a relief kind of thing, but I'm it's so different. Honestly, I felt it was a big difference, and I'm just going to hurt myself this way. So, yeah. Okay.
So from grade 7, 8, full-time goalie to out at that's only 5 years to university and playing at RMU and then Ohio State. Those 5 years, that development, I mean, that's fast. Who influences people you worked with? How'd your game grow in that period to get to the point where you're playing college hockey?
Yeah. So those 5 years, I guess it would have been Bantam and then the AAA. Those last 3 years, I played with Eastman Selects. So I didn't go to a prep school, thought about it, but I was I just want to stay home. And, if I'm going to get noticed, I guess it's through my play, and it's through reaching out to coaches and, trying to make an impact when we go to those showcases is super important. So that's really what I focused on. And I loved playing for Eastman. We had one really good year where we ended up winning the league for the first time, and didn't make it to the SO, not that far, but that program just really, I have a lot of respect for that program, and being an alumni from it, I still, keep in contact. And so I worked with Terry Patrick, I think during it would have been 8th grade, 9th grade years. And then we had different parents and stuff. Curtis Enns was one of our goalie coaches for Eastman and the AAA. And I was fortunate to work with Gord a lot throughout the summers, and he's still a huge impact in my life, and, him working in the POHL now is awesome. And, he deserves that a lot. So. Okay.
So Gord Woodhull, who I actually know a little bit from some old Hockey Canada stuff. How'd your, you go from, did you have a lot of coaching when you were still playing defense to, as you come through high school, you get more goalie specific programming? And were there specific things that changed in your game from a technical standpoint?
Yeah, I think it kind of started maybe my first camp with Hockey Canada. So the summer before U18, when we went to Japan, would have been Christmas of grade 12. So it was probably summer grade 11 going to grade 12. I went to my first ever camp, and I think there, Gord Woodhull, he's part of that as well. The Hockey Canada program has been for, quite a while. And I think the big thing with that program is they're very consistent from U18 to development, U22, and now even the senior program is a big thing about your stance. And I think that has changed so much throughout the years. But for me, it was really just, focusing on, bringing it in, being a little narrower, pushing those knees over the toes, not being so wide. Because I used to play quite wide, and then you're making yourself a little smaller, right? And it's just different things you have to change for your game. So I think that was a big change for me that really helped. And I'm still working on it, and there's still things you can change. But just, having a good stance, it helped knees a little more and help the hips on the body. But yeah, that was probably the biggest change for me, I would say.
Okay, so if we were to ask you now how to describe your stance and how you get in it and how it feels, I'm just thinking for young goalies that hear that, and we've certainly seen that trend at all levels of hockey, right up to the NHL, a little narrower. Obviously, with the game becoming so east-west, if you get locked in low and wide, it's hard to move, right? Yeah. So how would you describe like getting to that point and getting trust in your stance? What are sort of some of the feelings that you have when you know you're in a good stance? What does it feel like for you?
Yeah, I think we call it our layers, right? So I think having your knees over your toes and your hands in front, kind of at that, what would be the clock, the clockwork position kind of thing in that V. And then having the chin over, like when I chin's over and your shoulders are rounded, that's when I'm like, feel like I'm more in and you're not sitting back kind of thing. So I think having that, just gives me an extra edge. And I think just releasing the arms too, that's a big thing, not having kind of we used to call it the chicken wings when you have your arms really tight, right? You want to still feel loose and, still structured though. So, yeah.
Reactive, I'm guessing. Like as soon as you have those arms tight or the elbows back, I think of tension. I think of, not a relaxed stance.
Yeah. And I'm still working on that, especially, it might be one side more than the other for certain goalies. Just kind of remind it, like, just relax, just ease into it. Sometimes you need a video, like an iPad, just to see it yourself. It's hard to feel it. So big iPad kid out there.
Do you still use that? Do you have, I'm guessing actually with the other Kirky, I guess K9, Brad Kirkwood and the Toronto Sceptres, or whether it's at the Hockey Canada programs, do you get the iPad out and do you find that to be valuable feedback at times to sort of match what you're feeling to what you can see is happening on the ice? Is it something you'd like to do consistently?
Yeah. K9's really good. And we also work with Brad Fogel here too in Toronto when K9 isn't available. So, and they're both, on the same page, both really great communicating with us. And we've had a goalie session pretty much every practice. It's just 30 minutes. A lot of times just getting the feel of the puck. But just, working on things we might need to work on, like screens is a big thing lately, and especially in this league, a lot of those gritty goals, right? So we're just keep working on just those little things. But yeah, bringing out the iPad and whether you're seeing it on the ice or just afterwards, like this is what you were talking about. Here's what I see. Here's what the iPad sees. And it's like, especially I think post work is a big thing. It can be hard to see or feel. But when you get an iPad in there and kind of can talk it over, I think that's really important.
Have you ever had the iPad sort of facing you almost like a mirror, used it so it's to sort of check your coverage?
Yeah, I think more when it's like one-on-one, like over the summer or when you have that time to have that individual talk. And it can be harder when you have, 3 goalies, 4 goalies, sometimes in college, right? Taking up that time, but something to look after. And yeah, I think that's, especially in camps, we do that a lot when you have the iPad or phone set up just to show the younger goalies too.
Okay, so walk me through your experiences with Canada. 2019 under-18 championships, all 4 games you started, tournament MVP, 1 gold. Memories of that? You've had a lot of big moments in your still very young career, but what are your memories of that? It's five years ago, I guess now, almost 6 now.
Almost 6. It's actually kind of crazy how long ago that was. And I think the roster of that year, like seeing where we all are now, like playing with some of them like Julie Gosling or even against like Lauren Bernard and on the US team, like seeing where we all are now is pretty cool. A lot of us are in this league now. And I think that was a really exciting time. I think I was the only one from Manitoba player wise on the team. So getting to know a lot of the girls just from the summer camp. And, they take very good care of us. And then going over to Obihiro, Japan, too. Like, never been there before. Very different culture, very different experience. And I think hockey-wise, it's so long ago now, but I think kind of what I was talking about with the national championship, that expectation between Canada and U.S. is that you're making it to the final game, right? So I think a lot of us on the team, not just myself and all the girls, felt that pressure a little bit. Like, we just need to get to the final. And then, that's where we played our best game, is because you can kind of have that pressure off you a little bit. So, that was a lot of fun for sure. And then I did a few years under 22. Now it's called, it changed to development because of the 5th year in college where you weren't necessarily under 22. So I did a few years there. over the just summer camps and like development wise. And, with COVID too, that was, we had the year off there. So a little different experience. And then this past summer was my first senior camp.
So I want to go back a little bit before we ask about the senior camp, but that first tryout, like that first summer showcase, you were the youngest player there.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about expectations. How'd you go in mindset wise, being, the youngest player there, and how'd you manage that? Because there's probably kids listening that are like, they go into a camp where they don't know anybody and maybe everybody else is a little older. And how'd you handle that? I know it's a ways back, but.
Yeah, I think, oh God, yeah, that was a ways back. I think for the camp, because that first week is really you're just practicing and you're just kind of working with the goalie coach. And then that second week is where we kind of play the inter squad games. So that first week, I think a big thing, especially with Hockey Canada and really anywhere, is just being a sponge kind of thing. So we had a lot of great goalie coaches there, and on white or red, whatever team it might be, and just really taking their feedback and showing that you're trying. It might not work for you, but showing that you're at least trying it and you're talking with it about them, I think is a big thing that they really like to see. And that's kind of where the stance came from. I would say going into that summer camp, I was still pretty wide and probably not, playing how I am now. But just I was attempting it, and I brought kind of that feedback to my, to the season going forward. And I think off the ice too is just being open and just having fun, like especially in those settings where, I didn't know a lot of people, but now I can say a lot of them are some of my closest friends. So
it can be intimidating, right? Going into a group full. So just being a little outgoing and open to meeting new people is sometimes easier said than done.
Yeah, for sure. But I think keeping, still being you, don't try, if you're not a very loud, outgoing person, don't force yourself to be, just be you. And, everyone's going to be accepting either way.
So some other great advice there, because we've seen goalies where, hey, they'll get to a camp environment or maybe to a new team and there's a new voice, a new goalie coach. As you said, at those Canada camps, it could be multiple voices.
Yeah.
And we see kids sometimes say, no, my summer coach said I have to do it this way. I'm not trying that. Mm-hmm. Sounds like the importance of keeping an open mind, not only in terms of making an impression, but it can lead to new things in your game.
Yeah. And I think goalie coaches especially love talking about stances or skill sets. They love talking about that. And so much it's changing, even from that summer camp to now, so much RVH, VH, you get into that. So every year it's changing. And I think they're so open to that change and want to talk about it, especially kind of in that age gap where you're in high school and you're still kind of finding your skill set and your stance or whatever it might be, really finding your game. So, yeah.
You've been an open book here, but do you consider yourself and I say this in a good way, a goalie geek? Do you like to geek out on the minutiae of it, or do you need to separate sort of, okay, I'll do my work and now I'm just going to go play?
No, I like to talk about it. Yeah, I guess I can geek out about it for sure. But then I think when it comes to playing, it's just not overthinking it. I think sometimes I found it can be in practice, you start to overthink it, and then all of a sudden now you're too wide or you're too deep or you're off your angle, and it's just no, just stop the puck, focus on one thing, whatever it might be, just really keeping it simple. And then I think once you get to the game, it really just, everything just starts to flow. And that can be hard to get into that mindset, but I think if you really use the practices to build that, find those building blocks, the games will just be kind of an extension of that. Really.
Like you were saying earlier, it's like a test. When you're in school, if you're ready for a test, you go in without nerves. If you're not ready, that's when you feel them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay. So the decision, RMU, and then over to Ohio State. Just walk me through how you ended up at RMU to start. And then I know it was a weird time with COVID and everything, and a lot of things have changed, at the college level in terms of transfers and things like that. But your experiences there, and then ultimately ending at the Ohio State.
Yeah. So I, with Eastman, we went to the Stony Creek tournament here in Ontario. It was a really big tournament, lots of scouts, lots of teams. And I think for me at that point, I knew I wanted to play Division I, and I didn't mind staying in Canada, but I really wanted to go in the US. I knew what I wanted to do academically, and I knew there was more opportunities for me there, and I was okay moving away from home. So I think in that age, in high school, that I know the rules have changed when you can talk to coaches and stuff, right? But I think in grade 11 for me, I really knew this is what I want to take in school. So I was reaching out to coaches, doing your research. I had this little book where you put all the schools, if they didn't have what I wanted academically, you have to cross them out, kind of thing. If they didn't need a goalie for your year, especially, cross them out, right? So that's kind of how I worked it down. And then I think for Stony Creek, emailing coaches like, oh, this is my schedule, reaching out, like they might not answer. I'm sure there's some that probably still haven't answered one of my emails, but just putting yourself out there, having dad or mom kind of peer review those emails, obviously. But so that's what I was doing at that time. And then so Stony Creek, though, Robert Morris, I did not email them. I hadn't even heard of them, if I'm being completely honest. But they watched me in the game. I had a really good showcase, and Logan Biddle reached out to me after that tournament and had some really great conversations, had a really good visit over American Thanksgiving. They were actually playing OSU during that American Thanksgiving, so small world there. And yeah, that's kind of how I ended up. They were my only really D1 offer. So it just kind of worked out that way. And I had a really great 2 years there. It was unfortunate what happened for sure, but.
Okay. So some good lessons are in advocating for yourself though. Like that. Yes, they will come find you, but were you sending clips, sending videos, all those kind of things?
Bit, yeah. And I think at that time the clips were big. I think now it's so easy to watch a game online.
Right.
Too. And a lot of coaches, it's in the budget for a lot of college teams to go and recruit. Like our assistant coaches were gone a lot because they were like, we're going to Ontario or we're going to Minnesota, wherever, to go recruit. Right. So I think it's a lot bigger now where maybe you're not pulling together clips, because pulling together clips is hard too, because you're going to pull the good ones. Right. And the coaches are going to be like, yeah, I've seen this before. You made a glove save kind of thing. But it's still good to put your name and get your name in their ear kind of thing. And, if they really want to watch you, they will. I think that's at that level now. So that's I think putting yourself out there, emailing coaches is still quite important, especially if you're maybe not at a prep school or really in a league where maybe, what I was, we weren't going to the SO Cup or anything, but yeah.
Okay. Who were the mentors? Who were the goalies that you looked up, that you emulated when you were younger, and who were you trying to be when you went on the ice before you sort of get your own game and develop goalie coaching? Who'd you look up to?
I think closer to my age would have been Kristen Campbell, who is crazy now that I, get to play with her. But
Small world.
Yeah. And then just her story too, like her program getting cut at UND as well, and then having to transfer and, winning a national champ. I think we have the same stats in that national championships, like same saves, MVP kind of thing. It's really, really small world, let me tell you. I also really looked to Sammy Jo Small, who's from Winnipeg and who I've been fortunate enough is, living here close to our rink. Actually went and had dinner with her during training camp, and just so crazy, like, sitting at her kitchen table, having dinner with her. And like, you were one of my idols growing up kind of thing. And kind of where I took the number one as well. And she's such a good human and gives so much back to her community with her camps. And I went to her camps, I think, as a D and a goalie, and now I've been helping out as well. So I think those are, some people I've looked up to growing up. Was
there a question you had for Sammy Jo that you had wanted to ask all those years that you managed to ask her in person?
Oh,
one particular one?
For U18s, we were each assigned kind of names, and she was one I was assigned. So I actually went to her house when they lived in Winnipeg, and I remember over Christmas break. I couldn't tell you what the questions are now, but I think now being older, like we just being openly talking about college experience and just her time with the Toronto Six as well, and now her impact in the league and the color, the commentating that she does too now. I think it's just so cool. So yeah, we had a really good chat. It's nice being older too, getting to talk about different stuff. So
we mentioned small world, you and Kristen on the same team. Kareen as well. Yeah. I mean, Manitoba and goaltenders.
Logan Angers too. She's at Ottawa.
Right. Yeah. So you guys are taking over. What's the deal?
Something in the water. I don't know. I think I don't know what it is. We all come from different programs in high school too. And I think, we've all worked with Gord Woodhull. There
it is. That's good. Gord Woodhull's the combination. Factory.
Yeah, Andy Collar as well. I'm not sure if you know him. He works out of the ice lab too in Winnipeg. So getting, we've had really great resources, I think, in Winnipeg to take advantage of it in the goalie world.
Okay, last one. What's it like now? I mean, you grow up looking up to Kristen and following in her footsteps, and like you said, similar numbers, and now you guys are teammates in a league that feels like it's just starting to climb and pushing women's hockey into the spotlight and the forefront as a professional league. What's the thing that stands out about? I know it's early, but what's the thing that jumps out the most about this experience and this opportunity alongside her, especially?
Yeah, I think she just has so much experience, just from college, and then kind of in that gap where there wasn't really a solidified league yet, and you had the NWHL, and the PHF, right? And then the Dream Gap Tour as well. And her experience with Hockey Canada as well. And just, kind of being stuck as a third string for a little bit. She's just so knowledgeable and, has really been through it all. And I think just how she plays her style too is something that I think they mix us up a little bit on the ice sometimes because we're both in the blue pads, right? Kind of same height and similar styles. So I think I've just been really trying to learn a lot from her. And, the few starts that I've had here, she's just been super supportive on the bench and really just, told me to focus one puck at a time and just been able to slow down the game for me. And with the CGI as well, we have a lot of fun during practice as well.
Gee, when you come to the bench, it's only been a couple of games, but when you come to the bench, are you talking? Like some goalies want to be left alone. Some goalies just want to chat about whatever, but some goalies want their playing partner on the bench to be looking for trends and things like that. What are those conversations like during timeouts? So we actually
had, with the goalie, the three of us, we had a few meetings just throughout training camp, like going for dinner or grabbing coffee, whatever, just chatting about what is it that you need when you're in net or when we're practicing, like, we'll usually find out the day before, like, what do you need in practice or pregame skate to get you ready? So we had those conversations, and I think I've changed a little bit from college where I do chat a little bit with her. It's not always about, the goal, whatever is happening. Sometimes it's just to chat or you're making comments. Yeah, like you said, like she might notice something that I'm not, or it's just having those conversations to keep you engaged, but calm it down. Because we get a lot of TV timeouts too. And it's funny, I think we both drink a lot, like Gatorade and stuff. And I always felt when I was like, you feel like the bartender almost, like you got the Gatorade up and you got the towel and you're taking care of them. And she's been doing that for me the past few games. So it's been we have a really good system going. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you very much for your time. I've taken up more than I said I would. I love
totally okay.
Fantastic stuff. I know a lot of people are going to listen to us and get a lot out of it. A lot of young goalies, especially. Can't thank you enough for the time. Looking forward, and we have a lot of listeners to Vancouver. Make sure you check it out when the PWHL is here in town. Looking forward to saying hi in person when you're here, and can't thank you enough for the time today.
Oh my gosh, yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
That was a fabulous interview. I am going to go back and listen to that again, Woody, because I know there is so much to get out of it, as there always is. I hope people are on their way to tournaments right now or their next hockey game, and they are learning along with us as they listen to the interview with Raygan that was so good.
Yeah, you know what? And there was a few things that we didn't get into. We're a little pressed for time there. My fault, not hers. And I didn't really delve that much into her time at The Ohio State University. So you know what? As I said to her after we were done, opportunity for a part two. Yeah, part two down the road, because I think the future is bright for Raygan in the PWHL. And like I said at the end of the interview and heading into it, folks, if you're in the Seattle area, if you're in the Vancouver area, make sure you check out the PWHL as they sort of barnstorm a little, play some away games for both teams, spread the word, and potential future cities, I think, in terms of expansion. This is a league, when you look at the talent that is coming in, with a rookie like Raygan Kirk and some of the other players that are coming in, there is opportunity for expansion absolutely in the PWHL. So I'm hoping, don't know, but hoping that these journeys out west to Vancouver and Seattle are a sign of things to come, because I think it would be great for us to be able to more easily access some of these PWHL players, goalies, practices, so we can bring you more content at ingoalmag.com featuring these incredible goaltenders.
Absolutely. It's good for the game. It's good for goalies all over the world. If you are looking at checking out some of these games, if they're coming to your town, grab the tickets as soon as you can, because I know some of these big barns are selling out fast. Probably some of them already. Woody, it's time for you to get back to the surf. It's time for me to get back to family, and it's time for everybody else to get back to hockey. So I would like to say thank you to our friends at the Hockey Shop, Source for Sports, and thehockeyshop.com, to our friends at Visual Edge, NHL Sense Arena, and Stop a Goaltending You, the app, and of course, to all of you for sharing your valuable time with us. On behalf of Kevin Woodley and Darren Millard, we wish you a safe and happy new year in goal.